In the heart of Ibadan's bustling streets, a young man named Dele expertly navigated his weathered motorbike through honking cars and market traders yelling prices. He had been delivering pizzas for months, an unusual job in his neighborhood, but it kept his family afloat. His mother, who never knew where her next meal would come from during her youth, made sure he never went to bed hungry. "Ah, Dele, you're getting faster every day," joked Femi, his boss, as Dele arrived at the pizzeria. "Another big order just came in. Address is fancy. Be careful not to break anything." Dele nodded, securing the oversized lunchbox to his bike. He checked his phone again. He was headed to a mansion in Bodija Estate. As he approached, his nerves bubbled at the grandeur of the gated entrance. Stepping inside was like entering another world, one that smelled of fresh paint and money. He was led by a uniformed guard to the front door. As he walked across the shiny marble floor, he suddenly froze. By the entrance lay a pair of shoes he recognized well. They were simple, faded slippers, ones he'd seen outside his own front door countless times, his mother's slippers. A sense of confusion mingled with light panic. Why are they here? Is this a mistake? He waited with the pizzas in hand, pondering if he should ask about the shoes when a woman's voice snapped him back to reality. "Ah, young man, finally, the pizza," said the woman as she approached. She was elegantly dressed, clearly the lady of the house. Dele handed over the food, his mind involuntarily drifting back to the slippers. Unable to hold back, he asked, "Excuse me, madam, but those slippers by the door, they're very familiar." "Oh, those?" she responded, laughing softly. "They belong to a dear friend of our family. She's helping us with some household chores because our usual help is out of town." Dele's heart skipped a beat. Was his mother working here now? Why hadn't she mentioned it? The ride back to the pizzeria felt like a blur. His thoughts tangled themselves into a knot, embarrassment mixed with hurt. Had things gotten so difficult that his mother had to clean rich people's homes in secret? When he got back, Femi's cheery voice was a distant echo. "Hey, Dele, you okay?" Femi asked, noticing the change in Dale's face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Dale simply nodded, forcing a weak smile. He needed to understand why, he decided. At home, his mother, Bisi, was preparing dinner. The aroma of jollof rice filled the small kitchen. As Dele entered, she noticed his unusually quiet demeanor. "Dele, omami," she began gently. "Is something wrong?" Dele looked at her, torn between staying silent and speaking up. Finally, he asked, "Mama, are you working for someone in a big house?" His eyes searched hers for truth. Bisi hesitated, the spoon in her hand pausing midair. "I didn't want to worry you," she confessed. "Things have been tight since your father—" Her voice trailed, face shadowed with the past burdens they both knew too well. Dele's mind spun. He felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him. "Why didn't you tell me, Mama? I could help. I'm not a child anymore." His voice rose, not in anger, but in deep hurt and worry. "I didn't want to take away your dreams, Dele," she replied softly, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Every parent wants their child to have more than what they had. If you knew, you'd give up everything to lessen my burden." "Then I'll make them pay," Dele declared in quiet determination, thinking of the luxury he'd seen in that mansion compared to their struggles. "I'll find a way to make things right, Mama. I promise." With resolve hardened in his eyes, Dele left the kitchen. In his hand was a business card he had swiped from the mansion's table, the beginning of a plan forming in his mind. The wheels of destiny were now in motion, and there was no turning back. Dele's mind was racing as he lay on his mattress that night. A faint moonlight filtered through the window, casting shadows in the small room. His mother's quiet breathing came from the hallway, a soft reminder of the burden she silently carried. He clutched the card tightly, the gold lettering glinting ominously. The plan crystallized in his mind, a confrontation with the family who had taken advantage of his mother's desperation. He would demand justice, or maybe something more pointed. The thought of making them pay, of leveling the field, quickened his pulse. The night seemed endless as he brooded over his scheme. The next day, when his shift ended, he wasted no time. His heart pounded a rebellious rhythm as he made his way back to the Bodija mansion. With every rev of his bike, his resolve hardened like cement. At the gate, the security guard frowned, recalling the young delivery boy from the previous day. "What do you want here again?" the guard inquired suspiciously. "I need to see Madam," Dele replied, his voice firm. "It's urgent." The guard hesitated, but then motioned him through. As he approached the house, Dele's anger was a blazing fire, consuming his lingering doubts. The door opened to the same elegant woman from before, her smile polite yet guarded. "You again? What is it this time?" Her voice was a mix of curiosity and annoyance. Dele's words tumbled out, his frustration edging them with venom. "It's about my mother," he said sharply. "You've taken advantage of her, and I think it's time you understood the cost of what you're doing." The woman's eyebrows arched slightly, her surprise quickly masked by a veil of calm superiority. "Come in then," she said, stepping aside. She gestured toward the spacious living room, its opulence mocking Dele's own modest world. Dele hesitated only a moment before stepping forward. Every fine detail of the room seemed to accentuate his poverty, but he pushed the thought aside, summoning his courage as he began to lay out his accusations. As Dele spoke, his words growing in intensity, the woman listened in silence. When he finished, she exhaled deeply, a shadow of a smile flickering on her lips. "I think you misunderstand, young man," she said quietly. "Your mother isn't coerced. We help each other. She's part of our family in many ways." The revelation twisted in Dele's mind, conflicting with his perceptions of right and wrong, but before he could respond, a sharp voice cut through the tension-filled air. "What's happening here?" It was the voice of Olumide, the head of the household. Olumide entered the room, his presence commanding immediate respect. He glanced between Dele and the woman, sensing the charged atmosphere. "Noetinde caused this talk?" he asked, directing his question to his wife. Dele felt the ground shift beneath his righteous indignation. The moment of confrontation suddenly felt hollow, aimless. He stammered, the solid ground of his accusations becoming muddied and uncertain. The woman looked at her husband, then back at Dele. "Dele needs to understand that his mother has dignity, even in her work," she explained softly. "We care for her deeply, just as you do." Olumide's gaze softened slightly. "Ah, Dele, I know the pressure you're feeling. No be your fault, but know this. Revenge is a quick path to a bitter end." The room fell silent. Dele's heart was in turmoil. He chastised himself for not seeing his mother's strength. Perhaps revenge wasn't his answer, but the sting of wounded pride made him cling stubbornly to his initial plan. As he turned to leave, Olumide called after him. "Young man, your anger shows you care, but there are better paths. Remember that." Dele rode his bike through the dusty streets of Ibadan, Olumide's words echoing in his mind. He parked by a small, lonely church, a sanctuary he'd walked by countless times but never entered. Tonight, however, necessity beat pride, and he entered, seeking guidance in the quiet, dim interior. The church was empty, save for the aged pastor who hummed low, arranging hymnals at the front. The pastor's voice resonated in the space, low and soothing. "You seem burdened, my son," the pastor said, noticing Dele's presence. He stopped and looked at him with kindness in his eyes. "Would you like to talk?" Dele hesitated, but the dam of his heart finally broke. The weight of his actions, his anger, and his helplessness poured out like a confession. The pastor listened intently before speaking. "Vengeance belongs to the Lord," he quoted softly, his words rich with wisdom and truth. "But forgiveness, it liberates your soul." Dele's eyes filled with unshed tears as the pastor spoke. A flash of his mother's weary face, the strength and sacrifice she embodied, cut through his inner storm. The pastor's eyes were gentle, encouraging Dele to find his way back to peace. "It's hard, I know," the pastor continued. "But remember, Christ forgave even on the cross. There's nothing he asks of us that he hasn't shown us how to do." The silence that followed was potent, filled with unspoken truth that seeped into Dale's heart. He nodded slowly, the fight ebbing away. Maybe revenge wasn't what his mother would want. Maybe liberation lay in letting go, not in forcing justice. Kneeling there, in that worn pew, Dele whispered a prayer of surrender, not of his situation, but of his heavy heart. The tears came freely now, his soul unburdening itself in the quiet of the church. Back home, Dele found his mother in the living room, her Bible open in her lap. She glanced up, her eyes full of gentle concern. Dele, what is it? He sat beside her, the weight of his earlier anger now replaced by a tentative hope. Mama, I want to help, but I know how now. We'll make it through, and I'll put my trust in God, not in revenge. BC smiled warmly, the light of relief softening her features. Yes, my son, she whispered, her hand closing gently around his. The room was silent, but the air was thick with understanding, forgiveness gently cradling them both. As evening deepened, a peace settled over them. Imperfect and scarred, but rooted in something far greater than any grievance. In the dim light, BC closed her eyes and thanked God for the transformation unfolding in her son's heart, knowing that this was just the beginning of something new.
Thank you so much for listening to this intriguing story. I hope it touched you or taught you something. For more stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the page. And guys, if you'd like to see a part 2, or you have thoughts on what happened, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.